I'm sure you remember that game from when you were a kid. You know the one that you couldn't stop playing, or that your brother or sister introduced you to, or that you always played at your friend's house. Maybe your game is different to my game, but chances are you have that game. When you went back to it, it may have even been dead. At least, this is the case with me. I grew up with an older brother who showed me a load of different old games, and while not all of them were huge hits, I definitely have a lot of games that I'm fond of because of him. Pokemon, Zelda, and notably Monster Hunter are all games that I thank him for, but this means I have a fondness for these old games. I played through Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid up until Metal Gear Solid 3 very recently, but I never touched that game franchise as a kid. But Metal Gear is hot and sexy. It got a whole re-release and a remake is on the way. So, what about games that are closer to the bottom of the bargain bin? Sure, Call of Duty can keep their servers active, no issue, but those still popular, but a little bit less popular games? What happens to them? Many games that I played as a kid have been definitively remastered. Ocarina of Time and the much cooler Majora's Mask have released on 3DS, and their content is more or less the same. Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Diamond got their remakes, and the Switch even has an N64 emulator. But what about what we used to have with the Wii and Wii U, or even the 3DS? The eShop doesn't exist anymore. A lot of those games are gone, and all because a $62 billion company can't be bothered to keep its servers online. So much of gaming history was erased, and Nintendo still despises any form of emulation to this day, which is inevitable given the state of the availability of their old games. Monster Hunter games, in my eyes, are cooperative experiences. Without the servers, they mean significantly less than they did at launch. If, let's say, the Steam server shut down, you would be pretty pissed. But that's what happened to the old Monster Hunters on the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS. Yes, you can still play them locally, but this is a far more difficult experience for most players to organize, and it's a restriction compared to what it used to be. You can still access most of its solo content pretty easily, with the exception of event quests, but you can't connect with others. It's really isolating. I don't know about you, but I have a huge attachment to my virtual characters. Seeing them dwindle in some capacity scares me. I'm the type of person to hold on to old stuff like my life depends on it, given its sentimental value. And these characters hold a lot of memories for many people, myself included. My Monster Hunter World character has been with me through a large portion of my life, and it has been a central part for most of it. My first Arc-Tempered or Behemoth, my very first time doing Elytron, Fatalist, Arc-Tempered Velkhana. I remember where I was at that time. I remember how I felt. If my character lost functionality, or I was unable to play World in, let's say, 10 years from now, I would be pretty devastated. But this is just how a lot of game services go nowadays. All Xbox 360 games don't have online anymore either, so your old Halo ODST or Reach progress is as good as gone, and very soon the storefront is closing as well. You regularly see some people holding onto servers while they go down. Monster Hunter, Splatoon, Halo Reach. People care that they're disappearing. It's not a non issue for a lot of gamers. These games clearly mean a lot to some people, but they're not important enough for the developers to keep them online, it would seem. GameSpy is one of the most egregious examples of this behavior. They were a server hosting service and shut down not much longer than 10 years ago in 2014. This feels fundamentally wrong. Fully online games were now no longer functioning. This shutdown came with a very short notice, at least according to many of the devs. It would be as if Valve stopped their server service, for example. Small and big games alike, now no longer playable fundamentally. It would be nice to believe that a corporate level server hosting service could exist in our modern world, take on the responsibility after, say, Nintendo has stopped caring about it, but it's very unlikely that that business model would be sustainable, and it would be susceptible to the same issues that GameSpy came under. Many developers didn't even get a warning about the shutdown before it happened. It's hard to say these services should never be allowed to shut down, but this was one of the most disrespectful ways that it could have been managed. At the very least, I hope other server hosts learn a lesson from this and at least give a bit of heads up before they shut down. A lot of games with old servers still up have a different problem: cheaters. Naturally, asking for servers to be moderated years after their release is futile, given how piracy increases with time and how few people it will benefit, but it's always a bit devastating to hear that a game's servers are particularly insecure. Fundamentally, this entire video has been about a company's requirements to provide you with a service and a product. The extent of this is really debatable, so you could absolutely disagree with me on everything I've mentioned previously, but if a game servers still are functional, a company can and should protect user data. Call of Duty servers are notoriously unsafe, even up until more recent ones like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, with terrible vulnerabilities that leak a lot of data that you don't want in a hacker's hands. Naturally, resolving hackers on a server would be nice, but security should be one of the highest priorities if the servers are still functioning, particularly for a company as large as Activision or Valve. Well, if somebody loves something enough and they have the skills and desire, chances are that they will try and revive it. It seems impossible. Nintendo won't just switch back on the servers if we complain enough, and you can't just turn your own servers on. It needs to interpret client data correctly, cost money to maintain. It feels like a futile task from these people who love the game, but it has been done in the past, and I'm willing to bet it will continue to occur. For example, Inusuals and Sepalani have revived the Monster Hunter Tri servers, and I was able to get them working on original hardware without issue, albeit soft modded. The Pretendo network is aiming to revive many Wii U and 3DS game servers. Fans who love a piece of content enough can and will do it themselves. I think it's important to promote these fans. They're bothering to do what a literal multi-billion-dollar company wouldn't. Even if you just share what they are doing by word of mouth, that's better than nothing, and in fact, many of these services don't accept donations. But please, don't let these old games die. They are a crucial part of history. And also, if you are a game developer, please add redundancy, add peer-to-peer if you have to. Anything, just make sure that your game can be timeless. I appreciate the work that these small developers do, but it shouldn't be these guys' job to keep games alive. Large companies should be responsible for games that depend mostly on online functionality. Xbox didn't need to shut down their servers to be financially sustainable, nor does Nintendo. I can point to PlayStation 3 servers as the prime example, as for the moment at least. The servers are still up. And while yes, Sony does have supplementary income, so does Microsoft, and PlayStation never charged for their online services. I understand that game companies need to make money, I get that, but sometimes this gets in the way of gaming history, which really pisses me off. Nintendo most notably should pick a side. They're strict on emulation, they hate fan projects, but they don't continue to maintain their servers. It feels very hypocritical. Game companies can and should be responsible for the history that they create, particularly if they are a large company. It sucks to say, but old games are slowly dying, and I don't think enough people care. Just as an aside, I've been really busy. I'll be taking my time making videos. Don't expect me to regularly upload, but if you clicked on this video from a notification, from a subscription, I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And if something that I said in this video resonated with you, please send it to somebody that you think will feel the same way.